In today's video, I want to share my thoughts on John Ernest Wright's book, Biblical Archaeology. Welcome to a journey through the ancient Roman world, exploring the fascinating interplay between Judaism and the early spread of Christianity. Our narrative unfolds in various cities, starting with Ephesus, where the Apostle Paul spent significant time during his third missionary journey. Ephesus, a bustling Roman city, was renowned for its wealth, particularly associated with the cult of Artemis. As we delve into the historical context, we discover the economic impact of Paul's teachings and the ensuing unrest, as illustrated in the riot at the Great Theater of Ephesus. Moving across the ancient Via Egnatia, we arrive in Philippi, Thessaloniki, and Athens. In these diverse locations, Paul engaged with both Jewish and Gentile audiences, utilizing prominent public spaces like the Agora in Athens to share his message. We explore the cultural dynamics and societal landscapes that shaped the early Christian communities. The journey continues to Corinth, a hub of trade and commerce where Paul spent over a year. The archaeological remnants of Corinth provide insights into the socio-economic backdrop of Paul's time. Our exploration culminates in Rome, the heart of the Roman Empire, where early Christians faced challenges amidst the rich tapestry of Roman religious diversity. Amidst this rich historical tapestry, we uncover the role of synagogues as vital hubs for the spread of Christianity, highlighting the symbiotic relationship between Judaism and the nascent Christian movement. Join us as we unravel the interconnectedness of Judaism and early Christianity in the Roman world, discovering the cultural crossroads that shaped the foundations of a global faith. During the time frame covered by the narrative of the New Testament, Christianity emerged in the north and later in the west, distinctly gravitating towards Rome, which was the epicenter of the civilized world at that time. The foundation of this new unity was Roman authority, Roman law, and Greco-Roman culture. The Greek language, mastered by many Palestinian Christians, made their preaching accessible to the majority of the empire's inhabitants. Jewish communities existed in every major city, and missionaries primarily directed their efforts towards them. The authorities of Roman provinces ensured the safety and proper condition of the empire's roads. Only after Christianity took root in the eastern Roman provinces did it begin to penetrate into Mesopotamia and other regions that maintained independence from Rome. In nearby Daphne, there was a sanctuary dedicated to the god Apollo, renowned for its notoriety. The inhabitants of Antioch also earned a reputation as coarse wits and inventors of nicknames. It is no coincidence that the term Christians originated here, Acts 11:26. This passionately pagan city became the principal center of Christianity beyond Palestine. The physician Luke is traditionally considered a native of this city. It is quite possible that the Gospel of Matthew was written in Antioch. During his initial missionary journey, Paul preached in Antioch of Pisidia, Iconium, Lystra, and Derbe, Acts 13:13 to 14:24, all situated in the Roman province of Galatia. The Epistle to the Galatians was likely written by Paul specifically for the representatives of the Christian communities he had founded. During his third missionary journey, Paul spent approximately 2 years in Ephesus. Ephesus, with a population of at least 250,000 residents, was the primary city of the Roman province of Asia. The port of Ephesus served as a crucial link in maritime trade between the West and the East. According to literary and documentary evidence, this city possessed immense wealth. According to the Roman geographer Strabo, it housed the main market of Asia Minor. The city owed much of its wealth and fame to the cult of Artemis, the mother goddess identified by Romans as Diana. Her cult was associated with the fertility of both humans and livestock. The character of this cult was more Asian than Greek or Roman. Worshipping Artemis resembled the ancient Canaanite cults, proving to be a significant temptation for Israel. This cult was widespread, as indicated by the words of Demetrius, a silversmith, who spoke of the greatness of her whom all Asia and the world worships, Acts 19:27. The month of Artemisius, March-April, was a time when the temple and local merchants in Ephesus received substantial contributions from travelers and pilgrims. Perhaps it was this influx of people that prompted Paul to stay in Ephesus until Pentecost, 1 Corinthians 16:8-9. It was during this time that discontent, fueled by the economic consequences of his preaching and the jealousy of the gods, could have erupted. A crowd, influenced by the silversmith Demetrius, gathered in the vast theater situated on the western slope of Mount Pion, facing the city. It is believed that this theater could accommodate up to 24,550 people. The mention of exorcists in Acts 19:13 indicates that experts in magical formulas and incantations, referred to as Ephesian writings by Greek and Roman authors, were a common phenomenon. The formula, "I adjure you by Jesus," mentioned in Acts 19:13 and used by Jewish exorcists, was a common exorcism formula. The word in Acts 19:18, translated as deeds in the Authorized Version, actually means magical formulas. Asiarchs, mentioned in Acts 19:31, often appear in Ephesian texts. This title was given to individuals who oversaw the performance of rituals in the imperial cult in Asia. In Acts 19:35, there is also mention of the city clerk, who, according to the text, appears to be the chief civic official in the city. In this verse, Ephesus is called the temple keeper of Artemis, a title used in other texts as well. A similar epithet was employed, not just in Ephesus, to denote a city's role as a temple keeper in the cult of the Roman emperor. During his second missionary journey, Paul crossed from Asia Minor into Europe and reached a city called Philippi. The Egnatian Way, or Via Egnatia, a well-paved Roman road traversing Macedonia to the Adriatic, was once the main street of Philippi. Remnants of ruts from countless wagons and chariots can still be seen on the stones in some places. In the western part of the city, large arched gates were uncovered, through which the road passed, crossing a small river about a mile from the city. This is the only location in the vicinity matching the description given in Acts 16:13. On the Sabbath day, we went outside the city gate to the river, where we expected to find a place of prayer. Evidently, the Jewish community in the city was too small to warrant the construction of a synagogue. Another significant city along the Via Egnatia, where Paul also founded a church, was Thessalonica, located 70 miles from Philippi. This is modern-day Thessaloniki, the second largest Greek city after Athens. After leaving the Macedonian cities of Thessalonica and Berea, Paul journeyed to Athens. The ancient city's center, the Agora or market square, has not only been excavated but also restored. It was in this Agora and in the synagogue that Paul reasoned daily with Jews, God-fearing Greeks, and in the marketplace, Acts 17:17. The Agora served as the political, commercial, and social hub of the ancient Greek city, representing a vast open space surrounded by buildings of public, religious, and political significance. A researcher delving into Paul's brief stay in Athens is particularly drawn to his address at the Areopagus, Acts 17:19-31. This rugged bare hill situated northwest of the Acropolis served as the gathering place for the Athenian court, which dealt with religious and political matters. Another issue related to Paul's speech before the Areopagus is the inscription he references on the altar to the unknown God. No such inscription has been found in Athens. However, descriptions from the traveler Pausanias and later literary sources mention unknown gods. Moreover, an altar to the unknown gods was discovered in Pergamon. Therefore, Paul's words should not appear peculiar to us. From Athens, Paul journeyed to Corinth, where he spent a year and 6 months. Corinth stood at a strategic point along the narrow isthmus connecting central Greece with the Peloponnese, making it a natural center for maritime trade that linked western Lycaeum and eastern Kentraea. Small vessels were hauled by teams between these two cities, and goods transported by them were also unloaded and carried by hand. Otherwise, ships would have had to undertake a perilous 200-mile journey around the peninsula. During Paul's time, Corinth was undergoing a period of reconstruction and prosperity. At the city center stood the Agora, or market square, where essential buildings for both civil and religious purposes were located. The Lycaeum Road led to the Agora from the north. Partially preserved structures allow us to envision the appearance of stalls facing the street or square, similar to the one where Paul worked with Aquila and Priscilla, Acts 18:2-3. To the right, near the point where the road opens onto the square, was a large columned building, or basilica. Romans used such structures for civil and judicial purposes. Later, Christians adopted a similar plan for their churches, divided into naves. Paul set foot on Italian soil in Puteoli, Acts 28:13, on the northern shore of the Bay of Naples. There he found fellow Christians with whom he spent a week before heading to the capital. Puteoli was located near Pompeii, a city completely buried under layers of lava and ash after the eruption of Vesuvius in 79 AD. The Roman Forum, the center of the world in the time of the Apostle Paul, was situated between two hills at the center of a group of 7 hills upon which Rome was built. It could be approached from the east, near the location of the present-day Arch of Titus. The Arch of Titus, constructed in 81 AD to commemorate the capture of Jerusalem, contained trophies taken from the temple in 70 AD and brought to Rome in a triumphant procession. The earliest Christian testimonies in Rome were associated with burial grounds. According to Roman laws, all burial places had to be located outside the city limits, leading to the emergence of many cemeteries near the roads leading into the city. In the 1st century, Romans typically practiced cremation, collecting the ashes in urns and placing them in special underground chambers or mausoleums. By the 2nd century, the burial of the deceased became a common practice, leading affluent individuals to inter their relatives in expensive, elaborately decorated sarcophagi. Jews and Christians opposed cremation, perhaps due to their belief in the resurrection of the dead. They buried their deceased in underground chambers, which, for convenience, were transformed into galleries or catacombs. Several Jewish catacombs have been discovered in the vicinity of Rome. The symbolism in the wall paintings, often featuring a menorah or 7-branched candelabrum, indicates their Jewish nature. Christian catacombs distinguish themselves by a significantly larger number and greater extent. In the vicinity of the city, at least 35 of them have been discovered, with a total length of their galleries exceeding 500 miles. The earliest burials in these catacombs appeared around 150 AD, approximately 80 or 90 years after the death of the Apostle Paul. According to tradition, the tomb of the Apostle Paul was located beneath the altar of the church St. Paul outside the walls. The initial structure at this site was erected by Constantine, and subsequently it was significantly expanded and transformed into a monumental building consecrated by Pope Siricius in the late 4th century. The search for ancient Christian relics under the crypts and altars of St. Peter's Basilica likely sparked considerable interest. According to tradition, both Peter and Paul met their martyrdom in Rome during the reign of Nero, roughly between 64 and 68 AD. It is traditionally believed that the tomb of Peter is located beneath the altar of St. Peter's Basilica, the principal cathedral of the Roman Catholic Church. There is not a unanimous consensus among scholars that researchers have accurately identified the exact location of the tomb of the Apostle Peter. While there is little doubt that Peter came to Rome and met martyrdom here, some Protestant scholars suggest that he might have been buried elsewhere and not beneath the altar of the cathedral. In the conditions of persecution orchestrated by Nero, Peter's body could have been buried secretly. On the other hand, the site of the apostles' final sufferings is unlikely to have been erased from the memory of Christians. Therefore, the monument from the 2nd century beneath the altar of the current St. Peter's Basilica is considered by some as nothing more than a cenotaph, erected at the place of the apostles' martyrdom. There is no evidence that the remains or tombs of Christians elicited the same interest in the 1st and 2nd centuries as they did later on. Consequently, the tomb of the Apostle Peter might remain undiscovered. The Roman world into which Christianity emerged was marked by the same diversity of religious schools and beliefs as our modern era. The majority of the empire's inhabitants were polytheists, believing in the existence of numerous gods who, though taking on the forms of living beings, essentially represented forces and elements of nature. The convictions of the educated elite were characterized by a much greater subtlety and sophistication. For instance, Epicureans held the view that gods could not directly influence the world. They didn't require human worship, but such reverence towards the gods was considered natural for humans. According to Epicurean philosophy, human well-being was attained through a simple and moderate existence. Meanwhile, Stoics argued that God was the reason behind the universe, and each individual contained a spark of this divine reason or world soul. The Stoic perspective on fate and moral responsibility also influenced their religious outlook. Christianity, emerging in this diverse religious landscape, brought its own unique teachings and perspectives on matters of faith and worship. Man should not be a slave to his passions, but rather guide his life by it. Since all humans are endowed with this divine spark, they can and should live together as citizens with common ideals. To Virgil, this new era heralded by Augustus represented the ideal of a truly universal society, founded on unshakable principles of human nature that surpassed racial and national differences. In this world, Judaism was regarded with disdain and suspicion as a harmful religion, as what seemed holy and sublime to Roman pagans was rejected by the Jews as abominable. Nevertheless, Romans considered the Jews a distinct people, endowing them with special privileges. The laws of Moses influenced the lives of many inhabitants of the empire. However, Judaism, unlike Christianity, never posed a special threat to paganism. As Gibbon writes, Judaism was a religion admirably fitted for defense, but never designed for conquest. The attitude towards Christianity, on the other hand, was much less favorable from the outset. It was considered nothing more than a sectarian doctrine, detached from Judaism, and lacked legal status since Christians could not be categorized as a nation or a people. Jews were exempted from mandatory worship of Roman gods and the emperor, but this freedom did not extend to Christians. This disparity led to persecutions against Christians, perceived as individuals guilty of treason against the state. However, unlike Judaism, Christianity considered the preaching of the gospel its sacred duty and had the strength to overcome all obstacles on this arduous path. Despite the suspicion of educated individuals who viewed the new religion as a peculiar superstition and the widespread hatred of Christianity among the general population, seeing it as an atheistic doctrine and attributing all national calamities to its spread, considered a cause of divine wrath, nothing could stop the spread of Christianity. At the twilight of paganism, the gospel offered people, especially the poor and disenfranchised, hope and a sense of security. Over time, it managed to capture the minds of pagan intellectuals. By the 3rd century, the dreams of Emperor Augustus for a new world order, rooted in classical idealism, came to an end. The old culture was dying, and the Christian teachings about humanity and society became a doctrine of salvation. Throughout the Roman world, the spread of Christianity owed much to the active involvement of Jews in synagogues. Jews played a pivotal role in the early stages of the Christian movement, and the Jewish apostle Paul significantly contributed to the preaching and dissemination of Christianity. Synagogues, serving as places for Jewish prayers and communal gatherings, also became centers where Christian apostles and teachers addressed the local population. This interaction with the Jewish heritage facilitated Christianity's penetration into various layers of society and created cultural bridges between Jewish and Gentile communities. Thus, in different corners of the Roman world, Christianity gained popularity and influence, bridging the gap between Jewish and Gentile traditions and solidifying its position as a key factor in the socio-cultural transformation process. As we conclude our exploration of the intertwining histories of Judaism and early Christianity in the Roman world, we encourage you to engage with us. Share your experiences of visiting New Testament cities, leaving comments below. If you found this video enlightening, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, give it a thumbs up, and spread the knowledge by sharing it on your social media. Together, let's amplify the message and invite more people to discover the rich tapestry of the ancient Roman world and the transformative impact of faith. Thank you for being part of this journey, and we look forward to more adventures in history and culture.